Welcome to Syntax. Today we've got two of the devs on from Drizzle. We're really excited about this, both because I'm a big fan of Drizzle myself. Drizzle is a TypeScript ORM for several databases. We'll talk all about that in just a sec. But also, look at these cool t-shirts. We are launching this new thing on Syntax, which is sort of like collaborations with open source projects. And part of it is like we're trying to figure out like how do we do cool stuff, but also like support open source projects. So this Drizzle tee, shout out to Drizzle because they were like one of the first to sign on. They're like, yeah, we'll do that with you. $10 of this shirt will go straight to the Drizzle project and continue funding the work of it. So you got that. We got Syntax on the back. You think that's it? You're not. Look at
this. There we go.
Really, really cool t-shirt. You want to go to syntax.fm/shop or click the show notes or anything like that and snap up a t-shirt before they're all gone. So we got Andrew and Alex. Welcome, guys. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's start real quick with an explanation of what Drizzle is for anybody who is relatively new or hasn't heard of it before.
Yeah, so I can start. My name is Andrew, and I'm working on Drizzle for quite some time. And Drizzle is like our years of development and helping our projects to work with databases. And like initially, we made Drizzle just to help us as developers and help another developers in our company where we were working on. Just to make databases easy in the TypeScript, in the way how we see it, how we think it should be.
Yeah, awesome. And how long have you been working on Drizzle?
Almost 4 years, I guess.
Almost 4 years.
Oh, wow.
3.5 years,
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild. And it seems like probably in the last, year and a half, it's starting to really take off. Like I've done a couple of projects with it. It feels really good, like the TypeScript inference is amazing. We will talk about that, but it's amazing to think like you've been just chipping away at it for 4 years, and it's such an awesome ORM for working with databases.
Yeah, it's in public for maybe year and a half. Thanks to Doug from SST, he helped us to just grow so fast, making this first video about us.
Yeah.
And previously, like for a year, we were writing it in Java, actually, not in JavaScript or TypeScript.
Really?
And then we just rewrote it to JavaScript and TypeScript because we needed it there as well. So like the first thing was, it was project in Java and there were no good ORMs and we did it for Java. And then we rewrote in the Java style, a lot of classes, OP and that stuff was there. And then we rewrote it to the new version of just objects and functions.
What kind of stuff were you working on that it was in Java?
We've been doing outsource.
Okay. So you were just taking on projects for companies? So do you have like a company then?
Yeah, we've been doing TypeScript, Python, Golang, and Java projects, Java and Kotlin projects. So we've been through Hibernate, we've been through MyBodies and other stuff. And then we sort of had an opportunity to write an ORM as we envision it in the Java land. And then when we fully pivoted to the TypeScript outsource, like 95% of the TypeScript, then we sort of realized that we went through TypeORM, we went through SQLite, Prisma, etc. And we were lacking the developer experience we had with our ORM, so we transitioned.
Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of gets into the why make an ORM thing. I know people always say either use an ORM or you end up building one yourself. So you guys actually took on the task of building one yourself. Going from 0 to 100, how was that process and what informed the design decisions you guys had?
We sort of listed all the problems we had, and those problems, they sounded silly to us. And we sort of listed all of those and we made the manifest of how we see conceptually the ORM. It should be everywhere opt-in. It should be type safe. It should not have generation steps. It has to have a discoverable API. It has to have SQL-like API, etc., etc. So we listed everything down, and to this day we follow all of those, especially when we go through conversations about the API decisions. We follow all those rules except one, and that one in particular was TypeScript 100% type safety, because in the long run, 100% type safety turned out to be a bad thing. It has more downsides than benefits.
Oh, can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, what does that mean? What does 100% type safety mean when you're building an ORM, and why is that bad?
Yeah, so we've had an iteration where we're like, okay, we're gonna make you write everything type safe. If you change anything, and it should influence the joint column or the filter you pass to the where statement, we should infer everything and make you write the exact thing that will work on the database. And the guys from Kysely have been blaming us that we don't have like 100% type safety, that you can pass the wrong column to the where statement, or or you can join the wrong column, etc., and it will break. And we know that, and it's a deliberate decision, and we've been stating this publicly in the Twitter, is that when you make an API that way of the query builder, you have to first pivot from the SQL likeness, because you now have to list all the things prior to the actual query, and then you have to reorder everything. And then when you write the actual queries, you will have like a massive TypeScript errors, and nobody except highly experienced developers with TypeScript were able to parse those. We realized it's going to be a huge deal breaker for us.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, because we often talk about TypeScript development on the show as there's like a couple levels of it, right? Like there's one level, which is most people, which is just simply using it. You know, you write a little bit of TypeScript, but simply just the autocomplete pops down, and you hit enter, and it all works. And sometimes there's errors. And then there's like another level of it, which is, I think, where you guys are on. I'm curious who does a lot of that work, is like actually writing the like heavy lifting. TypeScript is its own language, and being able to infer the fields from all of the queries and the filters is extremely complex. So who is it? Is it all of you guys that are working on the TypeScript stuff? Or is there someone that's just like a sick person that loves that
stuff? Nobody loves it. This is so originally Dan was the first person on the team who rewrote the class-based approach to the type inference, which made a huge leap to our library. And then they continued to work with Andrew. So Andrew and Dan are both core contributors to the core of ORM. I was originally in charge of Drizzle Kit. I sort of getting into this TypeScript type inference stuff myself, just to like make Drizzle Kit internals more robust and sustainable to iterations and breaking changes, so that the TypeScript will tell us that you've added additional something. Now you have to put everything in all of these places. But my TypeScript level originally came from the backend development, and on the backend development there is a certain line, and if you surpass that line and you try to imply your TypeScript types knowledge, you make it worse, especially for newcomers. So I strongly against that. I'm all about making it as simple as possible.
Yeah, I think that kind of shines throughout Drizzle in general. It feels like it keeps it all pretty simple for the user experience, in terms of there isn't a lot of like gotchas. You follow the rules. The rules are pretty basic, and you just use the ORM. Do you think anybody working on data and data projects needs an ORM in every project? Is that something that you got? I know, because there's like always a conversation about do I need an ORM? And ORM folks are like yes, and
database
ORM
Twitter
folks,
is database Twitter is wild, like some of the most opinionated, aggressive people out there on Twitter. And I think that's why Drizzle has such a funny online presence, because it's a lot of these guys are insufferable.
Yeah.
So I guess the problem there that a lot of people think about ORM as the data framework thing. ORM should abstract you so much that you forget about SQL as much as you can, and do caching for you, and do a lot of this stuff that basically we won't use it. So I personally don't want to use like data frameworks, but ORM on the other side is like object relational mapping. Just map my data to the TypeScript objects, and then I will deal with them. This is what ORM about. And when you hear all those things like ORM are bad, they're making you a lot of bad things, bad queries, bad performance. I guess people often talk about like data frameworks and not, like Hibernate, not ORM. And I think you definitely should use ORM at least on some basic query building stuff. I mean, don't use migrations if you don't want to. Don't use some relational API like Drizzle has. Just use query building. Just define your schema, see the types, and make sure if you change the table, you'll see some queries that were changed, and just help you to iterate faster. In this case, if you will look at this from this point of view, just use an ORM as a simple tool that helps you to map your database data to TypeScript object. I guess it's really important to have in any code base.
Yeah. Even with TypeScript nowadays, it does feel like that smooths the pain point of connecting your data to your type system. And even the like ORMs I was using in the past, if they didn't have a good deep connection to the type system, I was writing types in like 4 different places, and it just got out of hand really quickly. So I think y'all do a great job of that.
I wanted to add that, first of all, on Twitter, when anybody asks if they should use Drizzle or ORM, our account always responds no. This is number one. And second, if you have like layers of how you can use ORM/query builder/data framework, so each and every project will have a perfect sweet spot on this gradient of needs. And we made sure Drizzle is pluggable into any of those. So you can opt in to use Drizzle at any point of your business needs. You can opt in to use Query Builder or relational queries. You can opt into Drizzle schema to be source of truth or not. You can introspect your database and just use the database as a source of truth. You can opt in to generate migrations with Drizzle Kit. You can opt in to apply migrations with Drizzle Kit or the ORM itself. So yeah,
sick. And if you want to see all of the errors in your application, you'll want to check out Sentry at sentry.io/syntax. You don't want a production application out there that, well, you have no visibility into in case something is blowing up and you might not even know it. So head on over to sentry.io/syntax. Again, we've been using this tool for a long time and it totally rules. All right, Wes.
I got a question about filters, specifically someone who's coming from Prisma. Probably a lot of our audience was probably coming from Prisma, and you write a filter where you're going to select some podcasts and you want to say where the show is equal to this number, or where the number of comments is greater than 300. And in Drizzle, to write a filter like that, there's kind of two ways, right? You have a function filter, which gives you access to the different methods, greater than, less than, equal to, etc. Or you can import those methods themselves, greater than, less than, whatever. How come you have to do that? How come you have to use the method to compare them versus the Prisma way, which is you can just add a property on the filter, which would be greater than, less than, or equal to?
So I can explain. You are talking about two places where you can use it. So first is like a query builder that is SQL-like. There you can use only functions that you can import from Drizzle ORM. And then there's Relational API where I can use like both things. And about Relational API, I just wrote a post about that we think that our like Relational API right now is awful, and we understand that. So we did this like first iteration. After using it, we understood, okay, our relation define in schema is hard to follow, understand. Our queries there is, and filters as well, a bit hard to understand. And we have this big discussion for Relational V2 where we changed completely the Relations API schema and the filters where you will have an object, just an object as you asked, that like as you say, and it won't be functions. It will be an object where you can do and or like great equals, all sort of stuff there. It will be changed. But in SQL-like query builder, it will still be the functions. The case is our query builder is not inferring anything from schema. You put schema inside query like db inserts users table, for example. So you put an object inside the query and then put the those objects inside the filters and so on. So we can just infer that. You need to put it inside, and to put it inside, you need to have a function where we need to put this value, for example. And a lot of people saying to us that, okay, it's hard. You always need to import those tables. You always need to import those functions. It's really bad and awful. But when you have a big code base, and I personally, when doing such stuff, it's so easy to just click on users table object and go directly to my schema and see what is inside and then go back. I can go from every part of query inside my schema and check it, because as a developer, I often check query and then I need to understand what else I have in schema, for example. And it's easy for me in the project to navigate from and to, and we still think this is really great feature of our SQLite build. Yeah.
And I mean, we've been bombarded by this question for like over a year. And we usually have a chit chat in Twitter, and we elaborate that we went through every possible way for you to compose the filters in the where. And this is the best, which has most applications, the best common denominator. Yes, you will have to import, and that's the only downside, but you now have the composable API, which you can pass through the function as a filter. You can compose the filters above the query. And what people don't think about usually is that for whoever's going to build on top of our API, this is now going to be way easier to do. And you can ask Payload, and you can ask Astra, and whoever is going to build on top of our API. So we have to think about all those stuff, because we build the query builder as the lowest abstraction possible on top of SQL, so other people can build on top whatever they want. And you will see on Twitter that people, even in their own just project they do for as a job, they are building abstractions on top of Drizzle because it's the easiest. It's very easy for them to do, having that API.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. The benefit of explicitly importing the schema is really handy, because then you can click through to it. Because I have some projects where it's just magic, and I say, okay, well, where is this defined? And then I got to go look for my models folder somewhere and find it out. So the explicitly importing it, and the reason I ask that is because often I come across these like slightly different ways of approaching something, and I can just like feel myself being like, this is not what I was expecting, but there's probably a really good reason behind it that I'm not a good enough developer to know. And that's why I asked that. So that's a great answer.
Yeah, I've always seemed to like the importing myself and using that as a filter. It just feels like a little bit more solid to me than how I've done it in other instances. I want to talk maybe a little bit about the difference in approach between some of the other big ORMs, or at least the newer ones. I guess you could say Prisma is still a newer ORM, all things considered. So like Drizzle versus Prisma versus, I suppose, Kysely. Is it Kysely, I believe, is one of the big ones. Do you feel like your approach differs completely from theirs? And if so, like what makes your approach better?
Well, yes. So we are vastly different from Prisma. We were vastly different from Prisma, and we truly believe that we enforced them to follow our game. So we truly believe that we made the most balanced instrument on the market and the most flexible one. And we are the only one ORM which has dialect-specific branches. So if you're using SQLite, we have everything for SQLite possible, and it's prefixed with SQLite. If you're using PostgreSQL, we have everything for Postgres, and we develop them as a separate dialects, as a separate code bases. And we went with the query builder first, and then we introduced queries to help people transition from the Prisma world to ours. And we were betting on the SQL-like first, performance first, and then introducing new features without trade-offs. So we've had a vastly different values as opposed to Prisma, as opposed to Kysely. I don't know, off top of my head, I have to think.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, we are a bit younger than those two tools. And before went public, we were going through the API they have, trying to use them on projects. And to be honest, we took something from both of them. From some, like we took more, for some we took less, and maybe we changed it a bit. But those two tools helped us a lot also with the decisions we have, because those are already built. You already can use them on projects. You already can evaluate what decisions were good and what decisions were bad from them, and then imply it in what we have. So for example, right now, we thought we did good relations API, and now after time we evaluated that it's bad and we need to change it. And all things before, we already had existing tool where we can just check it right now because already people using it. So like we differ from them, and Alex explained that, but also we took some approaches from them that are familiar for you. If you like Relations API, it's really similar to Prisma's one, and thanks them for that. And the thing we did more for that, we took the API, but we did this one query generation for any complex relation query we have. And I hope, I don't know, the latest Prisma upgrades for performance when they did joins finally, I hope that we make some impact in that and they took something from us as well. So it's great for both worlds, actually.
Yeah, totally.
Are you guys friendly with the Prisma folks at all? I know there's a lot of poking that goes on online. I'm curious if you ever have calls with them or anything.
We had one call with Meeting Gupta. I believe he's chief operational officer there.
Yeah.
We were talking through potential collaboration with them, but never something specific. Rather than that, we haven't met or called or talked to anyone out there.
Oh, yeah.
But we've sent them the hoodies we've printed to Berlin headquarters, but they never, ever responded back. That was heartbreaking.
Aww. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. When we were introducing relational queries to the Drizzle, we sort of came to the common agreement that the future of ORMs, at least in the TypeScript world, is going to be basic CRUD plus queries. So you got to have a query builder, and then you got to provide the easy-to-use relational API for full-stack developers, front-end developers migrating to backend, and lazy backend developers who don't want to do joins. I'm joking. This API, the query API is superior in terms of the development experience, but you gotta have the good solid free query builder for you to build any kind of SQL query. So we call it query plus CRUD, and the fact that Prisma is now building an SQL query into Prisma, which is nuts, I truly believe that they had the philosophy that you should never write SQL, and seems like we forced them to go to SQL world too, and we sort of are going to meet in the middle now which is gonna be a sweet spot for every other ORM that's gonna come out. They will have to be here in the most perfectly balanced sweet spot.
Yeah, I appreciate that though, because we have some projects on Prisma, we have some on Drizzle. We like to try everything out, so if y'all could keep on improving each other, that'd be great for us.
We're just here for the benefits of it all.
Yeah.
I do want to ask, so Drizzle supports Postgres, MySQL, and SQLite, and then of all of those, they support like many different implementations, lots of like hosted versions. Cloudflare D1 is a little bit weird, Vercel, Neon, things like that. I'm curious, if you were starting a brand new app, what would you use both in database as well as are you using the query or select?
The database is a tricky question because we've been sponsored by many databases out there. We'd potentially pick one of those, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah. But in terms of query or CRUD, it will depend on the business demand solely. I usually lean to queries, of course, because it's simple and straightforward. And I will be honest, I don't really like SQL. I'm not a big fan of, but we know that SQL is going to stand and it's not going anywhere. And we just want to make the SQL experience better. Yeah. And
for sure.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that Alex said that he's like for queries API, and I'm fully join guy, so I'm always like do
old
joins.
School joins.
Yeah, old school joins. And the thing about choosing databases, it's really, really important. I know a lot of database providers are sponsoring us, but you don't need to choose it just because it's just some fancy new provider or that it has some specific feature. You always need to remember that behind the database provider, there's like a core of database. It's PostgreSQL, it's MySQL, it's SQLite. And all of them have different features, limitations, and all that stuff you need to think about when you're doing some project. Either it's heavy on reads, heavy on writes, you need to do sharding, you need to do there are a lot of things you need to think about. And after that, you need to choose the core. So you chose like PostgreSQL. And after that, you can find the providers who can give you the most of what you need. If you want just some hobby project, just use Turso SQLite. It's really easy, fast. So this is what I would do.
Turso is very performant.
Yeah.
That feels like it has to be like one of the most complex aspects. I mean, considering how many different technologies you support, does that part get exhausting, having to make sure that you're covering every angle? And like, how do you make sure that you don't introduce something that's going to break one specific project?
That's the beauty of us not having like a common dialect for everything and just having a separate dialect per specific database. And let's say the Xata, which are our sponsors, they have like a version of PostgreSQL with its own like abstractions and extensions. And we will just fork the PostgreSQL dialect for them. And then we're going to, without damaging anything else or intruding in anything else, we're going to have everything the extra there. We're going to have it as a separate dialect. And this way we can iterate faster and not having to maintain that burden of common dialect and trying to not introduce new things and don't break the previous ones.
Yeah, actually, this is one of the important things in Drizzle. We don't follow like dry principle at all. We just copy all the stuff we have. So we have Postgres dialect. We just copy it to MySQL, change the naming, change the features. Then we copy to SQLite, change, rename, and do the stuff. And then if you need to add anything to Postgres, you just add it there. You don't need to think about abstractions, how you should do. In a way, it will be in Postgres, but won't be in MySQL. You just copy it, and that's all. If you have a feature that in 3 of them, you need to do 3 times one thing, but in the long run, it's easier. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have like a huge budget. We have a lot of motivation, and we have to iterate efficiently. So we thought of this is going to be the most efficient way to iterate and the best developer experience for people, because we don't truly believe in this concept of I can just now switch the database from PostgreSQL to MySQL. We just don't believe in that stuff, and we decided that whoever is like influenced by this statement is not a potential user for our case, and let him use other tools. Yeah, we are all about you have to commit to a particular dialect, and then and we're talking.
Oh, okay. Up front. That's really interesting. Like the two things you said there. First, like copy paste driven development. You're starting to see that a lot more in like React component world lately as well, where people are like, I'm sick of high order components and composability. You know what's better than that? Copy paste. I can just edit it directly. And also just picking it up, picking your database up front and learning. I'm curious, like, if you did have to ever switch your database, like how much of the code would be different from one to another? You know, like let's say I'm going from Postgres to MySQL.
Yeah, you will have to change your schema. Queries would mostly stay the same. For the schema, you'll have to change some particular parts. It's not going to be a big chunk of work. But I also wanted to spoil that we're about to build a migration tool, because migrating data between databases would be a way more complicated chunk of work than changing schemas in your code and queries. So this is something we are working on behind the scenes and potentially introduce this year as an open source project.
That's cool. That's one really cool thing that Drizzle does. Is there is obviously Drizzle and all of the adapters, but there is Drizzle Kit and Drizzle Studio. Let's talk about Drizzle Studio, which is a GUI for basically editing your database and viewing your data, which I love being able to have a GUI for that type of thing. So like you might be used to like a Table Plus or what are the other ones that I've used in the past? SQL Pro. MySQL Workbench. You guys just casually built a database viewer as well?
This is a very interesting story. So we've launched last May, we've launched the relational queries. And people were like, okay, our number one deal breaker with Drizzle is lack of Prisma Studio. And they were like, come on, peeps, just use Beekeeper, just use Table Plus, please just use. We don't want to build Drizzle Studio. We use those tools ourselves. They are great. Just use them. And they were like, no, we're not going to migrate until we have like Drizzle Studio command. Let's do it. So we did it. We spent the months. We spinned up the first version, which was mostly the copycat of Prisma. And then people started using it, and we started using it ourselves. And we were like, okay, this can go somewhere. So we started iterating on Drizzle Studio. Then we introduced Drizzle Studio V2, which is a major upgrade. It is now like one step before it's going to become like a fully functional database tool for people to use as a standalone application. And then we started experimenting. So we've introduced the concept of embeddable Drizzle Studio, and we've signed with 5 companies. The first one was Turso. Then we've signed with Neon. We've signed with NextHub, Deco6, and HydraSA. And all of those companies, they now have natively embedded version of Drizzle Studio into their UI, which is outstanding. It's awesome for us, and hopefully good for them.
That's for anybody using any database, not just if you're using Drizzle?
It is for everybody. It's completely Drizzle agnostic. It is like composable. You can have or not have SQL query runner, and it works mostly exactly the same for everybody. I mean, like we have a version for SQLite and Cloudflare D1 for NextHub. We have libSQL for Turso. We have PostgreSQL for Neon and others. And we build it completely Drizzle agnostic. It is just a web component for you, so it's completely secure. it just asks for a callback to run queries on the database, and that's it. So you are in charge of credentials, etc. So it's a beautiful concept. Yeah.
Man,
yeah. Wow.
So you took one of the most annoying parts about using Cloudflare D1 and made it awesome. So they launched a Chrome extension that you can just hook up to different databases. But because Cloudflare is kind of weird in that you can't, there's no like connection string to Cloudflare, right? It has to be inside of a worker. Yes. You can't just like connect to a string and view your data, which is what everybody wants. And you guys figured out how to get around that?
Yeah, I've spent half a year talking to Cloudflare about that. And we are really trying to tell them that this is the perfect product for them to have natively. And we were going through conversations with PlanetScale, and we were going through conversations with Versal Postgres. And we have not landed yet, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to knock that door again and again. So we were like, okay, we're not gonna, this is a very inertia like stuff to do. So we decided to think differently, and we were like, okay, how can we get there? And the answer is the Google Chrome extension. And we can just see what the requests they're doing. And we are just sending essentially those requests through your web page to the API they have, and then we represent the data. So we've built it like within several days, and we now support Versal Postgres, PlanetScale, and Cloudflare D1, and we are going through conversations with them. So if we can't get to the vendor native dashboard, maybe there is a potential collaboration for them to sponsor our development of Chrome extension. There's going to be maybe there.
Cloudflare, come on! Like, It's so much better than what Cloudflare gives you. They give you like 1 of 10 of 150 rows, and then you have the ability to click on update, which takes you to a separate page, and they just give you text boxes to update them. Like the experience on Drizzle Studio is 1,000 times better.
Yeah.
They certainly should at least be sponsoring.
I have a meeting with them tomorrow. Hopefully they will.
Oh, good. Well,
nice. Yeah.
Tell them I said they should.
Also, you got a syntax theme for Drizzle Studio, so you can rock the syntax theme if you search for syntax FM. Oh yeah.
Who did this?
I remember that.
You should give this a whirl. So let's talk about a minute about like Drizzle Kit itself. I know like that was a big hang up for me was I don't have a ton of experience in migrations. I came from a MongoDB heavy world. So when I started getting into doing more Postgres in MySQL, it's like I need a tool that will handle migrations for me. And I really do feel like Drizzle Kit's migrations tool has done more for me in learning how migrations work instead of obfuscating it completely. Was that intentional to make it like, hey, this is a thing you kind of have to know about, but we'll help you with it? Or what was the strategy in creating the migrations tool?
I guess the intention was completely different. So you don't need to think about writing the queries, and Kit will just generate it for you. So you don't need to, I need to create a table. How do I write this query for creating table? I just hit generate and it will show me. I hit push and I just have it in my database right away. And I don't even know what happened under the hood. So I guess this is what the first intention for that. But the history of Drizzle Kit with when this was Java version of Drizzle ORM, we had some tools that we built to make the migration, but it was inside the ORM when you just, on the startup of the backend of a script, you write the userstable.create, userstable.alter something. And it was builder pattern of those migrations one by one that should be applied. And we thought it's great until we understood it's not, because if you change your schema, migration will be changed as well, because it's right here in code. And when we started changing the schema and new person in the project started running it, we understood, something is wrong. So we need to think about that. We had this idea of, how did we call it?
Migration symmetry.
Migration symmetry.
So,
we just
Yeah, before you delete the table, you put it somewhere else, so you can apply migration of deletion of the table. So it was awful, yeah, but we was struggling through it, yeah.
Yeah, and then we understood that there's already everything invented. You just need to run SQL files one by one and mark them in the database as the applied ones. So this was like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and we need to do the same thing, but writing migration queries can be really hard and sometimes tricky. Yeah, you can handle everything, but you need to think about how the things work, and sometimes you just need to fast iterate and don't need to think about the stuff, doing push, doing generate right here. So I guess this is what the intention.
Nice. Yeah. It's been nice for me, like I said, coming from a Mongo background where you don't even think about, you just change the data. So you start working kind of fast and loose. And this allows me to continue doing that while making it easy to change later.
Yeah, we've worked with Mongo for a long time too. Like when we began doing outsourced, we've been using Mongo, and we realized really fast that the freedom you have will catch you up later. And then after a couple of years of commercial development, we realized that having the strict schema is a restriction, but it makes you do disciplined decisions, and it protects you from doing wrong stuff further down the road. So yeah, essentially, at a certain point in time, we landed on the SQL databases, and as a source of truth for most applications.
And you probably will never support MongoDB with the Drizzle API, right?
On Twitter we will, but no.
And why is that? It's just because it's too different of an animal?
Yeah, it's not an SQL database. We are an SQL ORM, so yeah. But Drizzle Studio potentially will support MongoDB. Yeah, not this year, but next year, yes.
Yeah, because that I guess that makes sense. You're just getting data and able to see the data.
Yeah.
I did notice that there was in one of your later blog posts about supporting PGlite, which is a WASM-based in-browser Postgres database. That's really super interesting. Have you guys been considering how to make Drizzle maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say like compatible, but useful in the local space, like the local data storage space?
I can elaborate on that. So first of all, we already support PGlite. Andrew wrote, I don't know, within an hour, he made some patches and we've supported PGlite as soon as they announced it. Yeah. And we already have support for native SQLite in Expo. We not only have the native driver for Expo SQLite, we also support live queries. So for whatever changes in the database, it's going to reflect in the UI. And we've also made the Drizzle Studio as an Expo dev tool. So you can now browse the data on the actual device of yours. And we are going through a conversation with Expo, and it's going to have a couple of meets and potentially land in their docs as a go-to tool for browsing the database. And Drizzle, since Drizzle is runtime agnostic, our demo.drizzle.studio is supported, is like a SQL.js driver. So it's fully it's fully deployable to a web application. You can use it without Node.js or Bun or whatever. So you can use it as since day one. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
All right. I want to talk about one thing. It's impressive enough that you guys have built this thing, but the thing we haven't mentioned yet is you guys are all from Ukraine, right? Obviously a lot going on in Ukraine right now. What's life like in Ukraine right now?
So if talking alone, we can talk for hours about that.
Yeah.
If talking short, it's hard, to be honest. I guess anyone can get used to anything around them. You just need time for that. And seems like we found some ways how we can schedule our day, how we can schedule our electricity and internet, so we can work, how we can schedule all of that stuff. Thinking about rest if it's possible. I mean, you should do that. In any way you can do that. You can go to swimming pool. You can go to some like therapy or anything that's like helping you to rest.
Yeah,
it should be in your routine. So I don't want to, like, as I said, we can talk about that a lot of maybe something you're interested in.
I'm curious.
Can try to
you just
explain.
said you have to schedule your internet and schedule your power. And even I told Scott, I'm like, hey, these guys got to record before whatever because they have a
outages.
What was the outages, and what was the word I used, Scott?
You said curfew.
Curfew, and Scott's like, how old are they? I'm like, no, it's not. It's not an age curfew. It's gone. So there's tell us about that. There's outages of power and internet.
Yeah. So through like last months, we've got a lot of rockets hits our power stations, and it hits like we already lost around 75% of whole power in Ukraine. So we have only 25% of things that can generate electricity. And right now we have like 40 Celsius degrees. I don't know how it will be in Fahrenheit. It's a lot.
No, it's a Canadian. It's a Canadian podcast. We don't convert for Americans.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
The rest of the world listens. Yeah,
thank you.
It's 40 right now. That's
40 right
all right,
now.
We'll convert. We'll convert for the Americans.
Yes,
104.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
You need to use air conditionings, and they took a lot of electricity, and that's why our government need to separate you by groups. So, for example, this area will have electricity from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., for example. This group will have internet from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then you don't have electricity at all. You don't have internet for sure. You don't have like a mobile. You can't use it because it also needs an electricity to get the power and get you the internet or whatever. Yeah. And right now we have like, it's crazy right now. We have around 16 hours a day without electricity and 8 hours only with it. So we have this like Blue Yeti. We have this
show
like I can actually show it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see.
No, don't leave. Just show with the MacBook. Yeah.
I have the iPhone. So we have this station here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, and we have Starlink, so we have internet and we have outages. Yeah. And just because we are not Linux guys, we can work on the MacBooks for quite some time because of the great M1
because of the battery.
Yeah.
If we were Linux guys, Drizzle would stop. Yeah.
So you're running. I'm on Starlink right now. I was actually a little bit worried because we're getting the remnants of a hurricane right now, and I was a bit worried that it would cut out. But we're hoping that get rid of the Starlink soon because we're getting fiber where I am. And a lot of people say, hey, when you're done with your Starlink, send it to Ukraine because I have the original one, which is apparently the best in Ukraine. So you're running that on a big power bank?
Yeah. We have a power station and we have 2 car accumulators. So we charge them when we have electricity, and when we don't have electricity, we supply the power to notebooks or the Starlink. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really, really smart though, to be able to get that set up and be able to work through those types of conditions. Do you feel like it affects productivity on the project? Do you feel like the project is more inspired because of it, or is it just something you deal with?
It's draining. So in order to create, you have to have this creative energy, and it depletes really quickly when you have like explosions, etc. And you have to grind through those conditions. But I mean, thanks to the human psychological like core, we are capable of adapting. So we are adapting and just grinding through. Yeah.
And actually, like electricity is the least actually you can think about, because I mean you can charge this big power bank. You can think about Starlink. When the rocket hits right near you and your door is opened and Windows just doing this thing, I don't know how to call
really?
it. It's really hard. It's also happen at night, so you want to sleep, you want to recharge yourself, but you can't because you need to go to shelter, you need to do all that stuff. So electricity is like the easiest thing here, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah, and the experience of that is whoever is going to tell you they know how it is, but they've never experienced this in their lives, there's no way I'm going to believe them. Unless you feel the overwhelming power, you're not going to understand what it is psychologically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we try to not brag. Yeah, we are staying positive in all senses.
Yeah. Oh man, like props to you guys for that, because like I can't, like I said, I can't even imagine what that is like for that type of stuff. Where in Ukraine are you located? There's three of you, right?
Yeah. Kyiv and Dnipro.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, there's not only three of us already. That's also a subject for discussion. We've recently enlarged the Drizzle team, and we now have 14 people working on either different parts of Drizzle, either the core or the knowledge base or the community management. And we are also working behind the scenes on other products. So we've sort of sneaked a peek the Blokh or Bro CLI. We call it a new library for, it's going to be like a competitor to Commander.js. It's a TypeScript CLI builder and stuff. So we are sort of trying to spread now and do other stuff we are capable of, because we truly believe that we can.
Sick.
And,
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's your full-time job then, right? Like,
yes.
How do you do that, right? Like, obviously we're trying to sell some t-shirts, but that's not gonna pay for 4 guys full time. So is this sponsorships?
Yes, and I mean, we were making some profits until we sort of transitioned 10 developers on Drizzle and committed doing it full time. And now we solely believe that we can both spread the open source venue we have, also building some complementary products for people to buy. And we actually are losing money right now, regardless of the sponsorships being wild. I mean, those numbers in the open source world, I mean, I believe we're in top 1 or top 0.1% of the projects in terms of amount of sponsorships. Yeah. But if you translate it to salaries, those are not going to stand out much. So yeah, so we are reinvesting, and just because we truly believe into what we build and how we build, and we truly believe that we can, by losing money, we're investing money. I would say we are investing money into the future.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it shows the care that you guys put into the product shows, every time you release something or drop something or improve something, it's awesome. So shout out to what y'all are doing. And I really personally really enjoy using Drizzle. So I know a lot of folks do as well. So yeah, congrats on making such an awesome project. Yeah, let's get into the part of the show where we talk about sick picks and shameless plugs. A sick pick is something you're enjoying right now, and a shameless plug is something you want to shout out. Do you have a sick pick and shameless plug, Andrew and Alex?
So this was a thing that maybe I can share in chat here, so you can look at it.
Yep.
So I just recently found. So like my background, I'm like for 8 years I was doing professional swimming and doing like 2 times a day trainings and going to the stuff like that. And I was all about things that you could use while you're swimming. And this is new goggles I found that can just show you on the screen on there your pace of swimming, your heart rate. It could show a lot of stuff for you right here. And if you open water, stuff, it can show you where you're going, like a GPS thing, so you can go on a track where you're doing. So this is crazy, and I really want to try them.
Wow.
Because we were in Greece with Alex on the
Ocean Man.
Yeah, on Ocean Man, where you can choose like 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, or 10 kilometers in the sea, and you can just do this race, and that's it. And I remember how hard it was to navigate through the open water, because all my life I was doing like swimming pool training.
Laps,
You see where to swim, but open water, if you do some like a few degrees right or left, you're going somewhere like it's really hard to navigate. And there's and these goggles can show you where you're swimming. So this is really crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
It's like just like overlays on top of the goggles while you're swimming. There's a little projector on the side.
Yeah,
that's cool. I'm at my cottage right now, and I have the Apple Watch. And when I go swimming, it immediately goes and shows you how deep you are. So I've been trying to like see how deep I can go without like
dying,
imploding. So I'm not a strong swimmer though, so it's not very deep yet.
Yeah,
I didn't come up with anything.
No, okay.
That's all right.
You don't have to.
We can shameless plug something. So, is there anything you guys would like to plug?
Those 2 links to our biggest fundraising that helps people in Ukraine. You can choose whatever you want to help, like hospitals. You can help people who need to leave their houses, that need to rebuild their homes, and all of that stuff. You can read about that if you want. I guess it's really important to share those links right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure those are available in the show notes. And as well, if you want to help support the Drizzle project, you can sponsor them directly, or you can pick up a Drizzle shirt on syntax.fm/shop. And rock the Drizzle shirt. I'm not wearing mine because I wore it yesterday. So I've been loving the shirt. It's pretty sick. I love the green. Thank you. Pick one up. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. Really appreciate all your work on Drizzle, all your work on all of this stuff, and sharing what's been going on with you guys. I appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.